Good evening, everyone. Would like to welcome everyone to our first Model Freedom Roundtable, webcast podcast presented by PLITZS Fashion Marketing. This will be a weekly webinar series, and we're very much looking forward to having this once a month. We'll be having several types of webinar series. Next week, we will have our Designer Style Buys webinar series. I'd like to thank all the attendees for coming to see this Model Freedom Roundtable. We have three of our guests that I'd like to introduce. Two were former models with PLITZS Fashion Marketing. These are professional models here in the New York, New Jersey, Connecticut. One is from actually Maryland. We have Alexis Stevenson. She actually won our Model of the Year show and have done several of our Fashion Week shows for many of our fashion brand clients. We also have, oh God, I'm losing my train of thought here, my apology. We also have Dominique, Doucette, who actually has modeled for us several times, and is actually currently a professional photographer also, and is with Barbizon. She also works with Barbizon also. I'll have each one of these individuals introduce themselves also. We also have Mariya Nicole. She's actually Director of Photography for PLITZS Fashion Marketing, and she's also had her work published in Vogue, along with doing many of the high-end brand shows here in New York City during Fashion Week. Tonight, we have on our team Juan, one of our senior coordinators for public relations, as our host, show host, and we also have Sophia Manning, one of our senior coordinators that will be show hosting also. Our show producers for today coordinating the show, Kayla, and we also have Yuki. They're behind the scenes, so you're not seeing them directly on camera. But first, let's do a quick introduction if we can. Dominique, can you give us a quick introduction of yourself and your background, just a brief synopsis for the audience?
Hi, I'm Dominique. So currently I am a professional model. I do runway and editorial shoots. I'm also a professional photographer. I shoot wedding, commercial, runway, kind of a little bit of everything. And I'm also a professional photo editor, videographer, and then I also work for Barbizon as a modeling and acting instructor.
Okay, great. Well, we're happy to have you here, Dominique. Thank you for giving us the privilege to have you on our roundtable. Next, we have Alexis. Alexis, if you can give us, Alexis, a former model, well, still models, but if you could give us a quick introduction and synopsis on yourself and your background.
Okay, hi, I'm Alexis, and I am a model, and also I own a modeling agency in the Maryland area where we help girls and males express themselves and feel confident in who they are. So it's not just about like walking in heels and things like that. Our job is to build confidence and for you to be the model that we know you could be. So I do the coaching, and I'm also the creative director and the associate director, and I'm also a college student.
So you've really expanded since you first came with your parents, who again have a model agency in the Maryland area that we've worked with, and we still do. So I'm happy to hear that you've expanded your skill set and have been pushing it forward. So thank you for joining us on the roundtable here today, Alexis. We're happy to have you. And last but not least, we have Mariya Nicole. Mariya Nicole has been our our director of photography for quite a few years with PLITZS New York City Fashion Week and PLITZS Fashion Marketing. Mariya, if you could give us a synopsis on yourself and your background.
Sure. Hi guys again. My name is Mariya Nicole, and I'm a professional photographer. I've been in the photography field for over 16 years, and I know when for I think like 7 years. That's been the time I've been shooting with PLITZS fashion marketing. I'm also doing video. My focus is fashion and editorial.
Well, Mariya, happy to have you aboard too. Really looking forward to that. So I'm now going to have our two show hosts introduce themselves. First, we'll start with Sophia.
Hi, I'm Sophia Manning. I am the Senior Fashion Stylist and Wardrobe Coordinator, and I'm currently in college studying fashion.
Okay, and next we have Juan.
I'm Juan. I'm a Senior Coordinator at PLITZS Fashion Marketing, and yeah.
Okay, Juan, thank you. So now I'm going to turn, we're going to turn things over to Sophia with some questions for our guest panelists.
So recently, COVID hit and it's been about 3 months, and I know that everyone has been kind of juggling the new norm, is what I like to say that we're kind of going through right now. And I just kind of wanted to go and talk to each one of you. So Alexis, I can start with you and just see how you've been dealing with COVID and how maybe like in a positive light, you've gotten to spend more time with your family or more time working with your modeling agency.
Well, during the 3 months, I was in college, so it was like at first I was on campus and then boom, everyone had to remove themselves from campus. So it was like a big shock. It was like kind of like you knew what was going on, but you didn't know what was going on. So it was an adjustment, but online classes are kind of easier, but kind of not, especially for the field I want to do, which is fashion merchandising. It's hands-on. I'm a hands-on person. So I like to be hands-on, but some good things that have came out of it. I had a project I did on face mask and how face masks are going to be like our new normal. Like we're going to inquire it in our fashion. So it was a really cool project, and I found that really cool. And what else have I been doing? I've been watching a lot of TV, and that's really been about it, and just waiting for, to get into another phase so that we can reopen business, because we're switching over from in person to online and kind of face to face a little bit with the social distancing going on.
So you and your company have been doing quite a pivot, is what you're saying?
Yeah, we've been doing a lot of adjusting and new policies and things like that since, most things in the fashion industry, modeling industry, and training, it's face to face, and that's what we're used to. But now we have to kind of, take less people in and do more online to, keep the spread down and do the social distancing rules.
But how receptive do you think people are to that? Like, do you think models or parents of models, are they like, I prefer to be engaging in person, or they're perfectly fine with virtual? Or in some cases, like with us, we've seen some increase with regards to activity since we've kind of pivoted to doing a lot of things virtual. Have you experienced the same with you and your company, your agency?
Yes, we've experienced things more virtually now, because with virtual, it's more so easier to, stay in touch with everyone and meet everybody, because face to face, sometimes you forget things, and online, it's like, it's a schedule. It's like, I need to do this with this model from this time to this time. And it's more of a schedule. That's basically what online's been.
Sophia?
Dominique, with being a photographer and a model, how do you juggle doing both during this pandemic? Well, I haven't done modeling during the pandemic. I've actually been reaching out to different agencies and stuff, trying to just keep it going and trying to like reach out there and make those connections as I can to like not be forgotten about. And with photography, it's been really hard. Obviously, you can't be in person and stuff like that. Like I've said, like people have been pushing things back, like to wait, or pushing things forward to way in the future. So like when people schedule things with me, it's usually way in the future. I've only been able to do a social distancing wedding. It was a very small ceremony, but yeah, things have been really crazy, and I've just been trying to like work on myself and work on my skill, but also relaxing and not trying to take it too seriously.
Yeah, I totally understand, like the making sure you have time to relax and time for yourself. I think that's always a nice thing that we can treat ourselves to. Mariya, what's like changed with photography and like in your field doing multiple shoots, and over your 16 years, has this been really a hard pivot for you, or have you been adjusting pretty well?
I can say that like first reaction, of course, like it was, oh my God, what's going on in the world? When are we gonna do anything again? But then I just took time for myself, and I have so many things I've shot during all this time, and some things I never got to, because sometimes when you're busy, you do things for clients, you forget about your personal projects. So I really spent this time for completing everything I've done for all this year. I finally updated my website, and so I think I just did really productive work. That was my solution.
Well, Mariya, tell me, do you see a difference between your larger clients and your smaller clients when it comes to this whole situation that we're in here with regards to them following up with you, wanting to continue business when this is over? Is there a difference between your larger clients compared to your smaller clients? Because I would think the smaller clients have it a little rough financially, so it'll be a little easier for the bigger ones to bounce back, but I might be wrong.
I think you're totally right, because we are talking a lot with the bigger clients right now, and I got the message today from my client who's based in London. She's a jewelry designer, and she told that she can't wait when she can fly here and we can do something. So really the bigger clients, they are not suffering as much as smaller, because with smaller, I can see that starting from a lot of small businesses are closing, which is, a lot of small designers, small businesses, small shops or boutiques, they can't survive this time. So definitely easier I think for the bigger companies.
Yeah, do you feel that your peers are seeing the same amount of clients or less because of the pandemic? Do you think?
Oh, definitely less.
A lot less?
I'm sure that most of the industries, fashion-related industries, they have like done.
Now, what about models, Mariya? I'm sorry, Juan. Just really quick, what about models? How do you think they're faring with this whole thing as it relates to working with like some of your small and big clients? Have you been hearing from models you work with? Are they keeping busy? Are they contacting you for opportunities? Or you haven't had much communication with them?
I don't think that they're keeping very busy. They would like to, but you can't really do a lot, and New York just started to open. I did get messages while everything was closed, like, oh, can we, I don't know, somehow do some photo shoot somewhere? We don't know, like finding some background outside and things like this. But I think they also are really looking forward for everything to start running in more or less normal pace. A lot of girls I see were trying to do some virtual photo shoots, which it's kind of fun to do, but maybe it's more so self-educated thing, I think, not the professional picture for you to have in a portfolio. But
well, one of the things that I've noticed, I've been getting a lot of like email notifications from a lot of the studios here in New York, photo studios and so on, and they're actually pivoting also. A lot of them now are going to like green screen setups because they understand that a lot of people want to do virtual things. So they're actually converting their hippodrome into green screen. Tell me what have you been hearing about studios and so on. Have you been getting a lot of communication or new marketing from them for them?
Actually
Are they
don't.
trying to get your business still in that regard?
There is one studio I prefer. They have 2 different offices and 2 locations. I honestly didn't hear anything from them, so I'm not sure what they are doing. And they have, I don't know, probably about 20 rooms in total for the shooting. So if bigger studios are quiet, I'm not sure what's going on with the smaller ones. But I didn't have any emails since pandemic from them.
I wanna, yeah, I was wondering for Dominique, has it ever crossed your mind seeing that so many industries have already been hit hard through COVID-19 and their jobs that are never gonna recover? Is it possible that we're gonna see something happen similar to fashion? Could fashion ever bounce back like as it was pre-COVID-19?
I think that like what we've all been saying, like how it'll come back to its own kind of normalcy, but it won't be in the way that we remember. It'll have like limitations and different things changing, especially with like fast fashion. I think that that will be maybe like rebranded in a different way, like involving the environment and taking that into consideration. I really hope that we are thinking about the future in that way and working towards, having more like important impacts on the world with our fashion. Like I said, with fast fashion, it's really destructive to the world. So hopefully we really kind of reel that back and look at it more.
Well, let me ask you a question. I'm sorry, just a quick question for Dominique. So with that in mind, right, to be more eco-friendly, do you think these virtual opportunities are going to reduce the carbon footprint when it comes to fashion? The fact that a lot of things are going to probably still maintain virtually as we move forward post-COVID?
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see how it's going to affect the environment, like having to travel places, having to produce toxic waste from factories that's going to go into waters. There's already, I don't remember the river, but there's already a river in India that's cleared up completely, and there was a factory that was polluting from fashion, like a fashion company that was polluting there, and it's already cleared up. There's already fish that no one has ever seen in the water. So hopefully that will have a positive impact, and we'll think about that and continue to do like more virtual things. I think that with runway, it's going to be kind of sad if we do like less runway, because it's so magical to be there in person, and it's a whole show and experience. But I think that that will be one of the things that will be really cool to see go virtual. And if you can like come in live and watch the runway show and pay to like be live, will be really interesting.
So are you in agreement, especially with the runway part, that face masks are definitely going to be a part of fashion permanently? That's probably going to be the new norm, maybe for an entire generation.
Right, like I think that it's kind of like looking back on like 2008, you think of Justin Timberlake, denim on denim, we think about that kind of thing. I think it's 2008, but yeah, thinking about like coming back to 2020 will be like that look, that face mask, like it'll be in fashion. I think that'll be really cool to see it transpire into fashion.
Interesting foresight you have there.
I recently listened to a Business of Fashion podcast where they were talking about how like COVID-19 has like affected fashion, and the CEO of Depop and Fendi's creative director were all in on it. And they were talking about how Depop in the last like couple of months and during the pandemic has gotten even more popular than they already were, and how they think that sustainable fashion is going to be even bigger. And that, I feel like, kind of led to Gucci wanting to go seasonless, because they just recently announced. And do you foresee other luxury brands kind of hopping on that, and how do you think that will kind of affect like Fashion Week and modeling in general?
Yeah, I think because Gucci is so huge, them wanting to talk about the environment and them like taking these steps to be like environmentally conscious, I think that that was huge. And I did read an article about it, and it was super interesting what they were saying and the kind of changes they're making. I think tons of brands are going to jump on that and try to change up how they do things.
Alexis, with your modeling and with helping other younger females and males learn how to model, how is virtual and teaching them virtually different from being in person?
Teaching them virtually, it's a little weird at first. It's something to get used to, like you said, the new normal. So it's because technology, it has its issues. Sometimes our computer freezes, our phones die, things like that. So I feel like with training, I rather would do like one-on-one with the social distancing, because our practice space is like huge. So I feel like training in person is always better. You're going to understand the walk better, and we could also see you. So it's like, we know how to fix it. But if you just tell someone, hey, walk like this, it's not the same effect.
Do you think that also like being virtual has either increased or like decreased castings? Do you think that that's going to be affected in the long run of how many auditions, brands or companies do, or do you think they might be scaling back a little bit more?
I personally feel like that companies are definitely going to scale back, because before, if there's an open call, you just run, just go there. But now it's like, oh, you got to go through this, schedule an appointment, call this person, you got to do this, you got to prepare, sanitize. Now it's a lot more steps before you get to the project. So I think projects are going to now take longer to do.
All right, guys. So we want to transition now to our next topic item, and this has to do with your fashion journey. Now, Dominique, Alexis, you guys are models, so if you can give your fashion journey starting out from the onset of when you started modeling to your evolution into what you're doing now, photography, or part of the management team with like Barbizon, with Alexis, part of the management team for your family modeling agency. And then also, Mariya, your evolution also, if you could give us your fashion journey. I'm going to turn it over to the show host. Juan, do you want to kick this off?
Yeah, I'm really curious, and you guys have been in fashion for so long. I'm assuming you guys have been doing this for like 5-6 years. Are there any regrets or certain choices you made from that you have in your fashion career, like maybe working with a certain photographer or fashion designer that maybe you may regret or maybe didn't pursue? Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. Personally, wait, I spaced out a little bit. Could you repeat the question? I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Do you have any regrets or to any choices you made in your fashion career? Yeah.
I don't have any regrets, because I started at like 12, because when I was 12, I was up there. I was already tall, because right now I'm 5'11", but I was a tall kid. So when I did fashion school in New York, like the modeling training, I was going up against girls that were like 20 and all this. So I was just like, I'm the youngest one. So definitely you gotta be strong with things like that. So I don't have any regrets. I'm glad I started young, because it's fun, but then there's the cons. You don't get the castings or the jobs as much. But now in like 2020, they want the younger people now instead of people that are way older. So now they're starting the castings younger. But back when I was about 12, they didn't want anybody that was relatively younger. It was like, oh, are you 20 yet? Are you 21? No, I'm 12. So that was just my only thing. I wish they would have had more for my age group at the time, because that kind of slid back my process for opportunities, since I was too young. So yeah.
Well, I have a funny story, actually. I'm sorry, Juan, just had to interject this one. So the first time that Alexis' parents actually brought her to audition. Alexis, hopefully you don't mind me telling this story. It might be a little embarrassing, but I remember when she first came in audition, and yeah, she was the same height. How old were you, by the way, at that time?
I
In your
think I was
teens,
maybe
right?
about 14 or
You were
13.
14, 13? Okay. And I remember you took our runway training class, and I don't know what I had said, you know, because I'm sometimes stern with my training. So she started crying. I
It was so
didn't have any mercy for her, but she started crying. But one big plus I gave you during that episode is that you didn't give up. You know, yeah, you cried and shed tears, but you got better and better and better. You just kept at it. So I was really proud of that. So I don't know if you want to tell the audience a little about that whole scenario or not, or a little snippet, or if you don't, that's fine.
Yeah, so I'm sensitive sometimes. Like when I was being younger, I was sensitive. I was like, I'm not doing it right. I'm upset with myself. Like I'm frustrated. I'm like, I need to do this perfect. Because Wayne had the most serious face. I was scared. I was scared of Wayne for so long. I was like, I don't want to mess up. He's gonna yell at me in front of all these older people. I was so scared.
I was scared too.
It's funny, Dominique too. But Dominique
was
didn't
terrified.
shed tears. But I remember when Dominique started too. You know, and one of the reasons I have both of you on the show, because I was really proud of the way you guys evolved, right? And Dominique, I forgot how old you were when you first came to my training. When you
I think like
auditioned.
15 or 16. I remember
Wow.
Alexis. I think we have photos together when we were in training.
Oh, you were in training together. I can't even
Yeah, with
remember, to be
Star,
honest
I'm
with
pretty
you.
sure.
So I remember, you know, like you had difficulty walking to the point where, and before we go on, I just want to show the audience a little snippet video where from Fashion Week, you guys were actually back to back in the lineup, right? And it's Yingxing Education out of Beijing, China, our brand client and our partner in Beijing. And we'll go with Alexis first. Let the audience see a little Alexis in action here. Sorry if my computer is a little slow. So that's her. Can you guys see that on screen?
No, where am I supposed to be
Oh,
looking
I
at?
apologize. Oh, I apologize. I should have shared my screen, and I'm acting like a rookie here. So my apology to you. Let me just share that really quick. Can you guys see that now?
No. Oh, yes, I see an image now.
Okay, there you go. All right, so we're gonna show both Alexis, and this was during Fashion Week here in New York for Yingxing Education in Beijing. This is not them here, but they're coming up. They were actually back to back. Just so you could see. So this is Dominique. I don't know if you remember that outfit. And that's
My
Alexis
shoes
there.
didn't fit at all.
you had to make it happen, right? That's a model.
That happened to me before too. One time the shoes were like a 7 and I'm a 10. I can't do it.
Right.
In there.
Yeah. So I mean,
Cool
you know,
outfit.
it's all part of the whole modeling, you know, evolution. So I mean, I'm sorry I interrupted. I think Juan was asking some questions, but I had to interject that really quick just to give a little perspective to everyone, the viewers that are watching and everything.
Yeah, so this is directed towards Dominique. So you clearly have a lot of experience in fashion and you developed some interesting skill sets during your time. What, in your opinion, what are the skill sets necessary to have a fruitful and lasting career in fashion?
You said skill sets that you like your skills. Is that what you said?
Yeah, skill sets that are
Okay.
necessary to have.
I think that things that I've seen more recently are like I've seen a lot of models that want things for free and don't really think that you have to work towards things. I think, you know, being respectful and having gratitude and being someone who stands out as someone who is nice and you're going to respect the clothing you're going to walk in or model in or whatever, and then they'll remember you and hire you back. I think it's really important to be genuine and have that grace and gratitude going through anything that you do with modeling. I think that's really important.
Alexis, I'm glad you mentioned that. I think that's something, you know, from a show producer standpoint here at PLITZS Fashion Marketing, I think if there's one thing that a common denominator I notice across the board is that the people that are not serious about it are the ones that are going to be the disrespectful ones. You know, I like to work with people that are respectful to the craft. Many times we have people that audition, never modeled in their life, but they feel like they should come from the street and walk for Gucci and Yves Saint Laurent, right? And it just doesn't work that way. You know, there are those stories, and unfortunately, sometimes people see these people discovered in a mall and they went A to Z overnight. That is so rare, it's not funny, right? So I think, you know, I'd love to hear from you guys more with regards to, you know, what it's really about when it comes to modeling and how tough that journey is. It's not sometimes the fantasy people think it is, at least the business aspect of fashion.
Personally, since I deal with the auditions and things like that for the people that come in, people usually think that our agency is supposed to get you from A to Gucci to Ford, but we're an agency that basically trains you and gets you ready for anything that you need to accomplish. We can give you the jobs and everything, but it's not the jobs for, you know, Forever 21 and things like that. That's not our job there. Our job is to give you the jobs that come around here. So I think that's a common misunderstanding people have when signing up. They're like, modeling agency, okay, I can be a star now. It's a lot of hard work and dedication. It does not ever happen overnight. And
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I think what you're saying is right in line, that you have to know your niche, right? You don't want to drown anyone's dream, right? If somebody is 5 foot and want to be a runway model, hey, who am I to say, hey, you can't make it in high fashion runway, right? But the reality of the fact is that most of our brand clients, and I'm not an agency, but I deal with a lot of them, but I have clients as a show producer. We have our show platforms. A lot of our design brands, like we have Fashion Week coming up for September, you know, they want girls and guys a certain height and body type, right? And it's evolved. You know, they're more plus curve. They're more designers that want models that look like their clients. So there are more opportunities there, but still, it's still by far a certain body type that they want, especially for like Fashion Week and for certain assignments. So Alexis, you're exactly, you know, correct about that. People sometimes are they're looking for you to make them famous, right? And they just don't understand that that's not how it goes. And you have to learn certain skill sets. I wanted to ask Mariya too, and then I'll pass it back over to Juan. Mariya, what has been your experience with regards to encountering models in this regard?
I want to
as a
use
photographer, by the
yeah.
way.
Sorry?
No, as a photographer, from your perspective,
Right.
you know, Dominique and Alexis, they're models, they're with agencies, Juan Barbazon, and I wanted to know your perspective as a professional photographer.
I think, like as you mentioned before, the models who are taking it more serious, they definitely can get higher and can get more jobs and photo shoots. And I want to use the term which I really love. This is an attitude. Like, I think a lot of times models who are just starting the career, they do not, they often don't understand that they should have a nice attitude.
Yeah,
that's one of the really, really big problems I see, because a lot of girls, they think, okay, I'm beautiful, I have nice features, I have nice hair, I have nice nails, legs, and etc. And they don't think that they need to work to always, I mean, they wouldn't know from day one how to pose, for example, what to do on the photo shoot, how to walk properly. They don't often always respect the photographers and videographers, even on the way they're talking. They don't always respect the crew. So I think it's really, really important, first of all, to behave nicely. That's
Well, Mariya,
the first thing.
no, I definitely appreciate the perspective, but can you dwell a little deeper for our viewing audience? Because you have dealt with high-end models. Like I said, you've shot a lot of high-end shows over at Pier 59, other places here where some of the big shows happen. But can you compare, and you have done shoots for certain big clients, but can you compare like those high-end models that do some of those big shows or high-end shoots compared to like the mid-tier or lower end opportunities and models that work with those opportunities? Where do you see the difference between the two, the differential that's making those high-end models get that opportunity as opposed to the lower tier?
I'll start with the first thing. When you enter the backstage on a high-end show, it's always really quiet there, which usually when you have models who are not experienced, it's really always very, very loud and you need to scream to tell them something. So that's one very, very big difference, first of all. Girls who are already on a top, they always take care of themselves. They will always sleep enough, and you definitely can see they don't have this dark eyes. They didn't party half night before they came. They take care of their skin, which is really important, because as a photographer, you don't want to spend 2 hours to Photoshop someone's face. That's an important thing now. There are a lot of, if you use the right face skincare, now it's time you will not have problems to have a nice skin. So that's another thing. They're always very nice, very polite. They don't have questions, whatever designer tell them to do. They don't question, let's say, what they're supposed to do there. So
I appreciate that, Mariya. Well, we're
but
gonna
they
move
do
on.
have their personality. It's not that they don't have a personality. Sorry, they do have a personality, but they are nice and respectful.
Okay, well,
and
that's
they're
good.
very they work on having the process the most smooth as possible. In every show there are things like something break, someone took your shoes. Even in the high-end shows, things can happen. There was a show I saw the girl had to walk bare feet just because someone took her shoes somehow with all this craziness. So things happen, but like you have to also know how to keep the balance.
Okay. Yeah, thanks for that insight, Mariya. We're going to move on to another topic. This has to do with racial discrimination in the fashion industry. And this is something that currently is in the forefront of society now with some of the unfortunate things that are going on. It's really bringing to light a lot of the discrepancy that we're dealing with in this society when it comes to race. Now, the fashion industry has been stigmatized with this accusation for a really, really long time. I'm going to turn it over to Sophia and Juan to make some inquiries with you on your opinions on this topic matter.
Yeah, so this is for Alexis. I'm sure that you work with a bunch of models from different creeds and races. And I was wondering, do you think Asians in fashion face a lot more hostility because of the current fears with COVID-19?
I feel that with COVID-19, everyone is scared, not just one race, but everybody is scared because COVID it's deadly. If you get it, you don't know what's going to happen. So that's how I feel about with the COVID thing. But I feel like everyone should be treated respectfully Everyone should be treated respectfully, though. I feel like you shouldn't be discriminating anybody of any skin tone color. You need to respect their culture and the things that they stand for.
Going off of that, a lot of brands in the past have been called out for cultural appropriation. And where do you think the line is? And how do you think that, Alexis, how do you think brands can do better and to make sure that they're not appropriating, that they're appreciating other cultures and everything like that?
Personally, I feel like what industries should start doing is that if they see a certain piece or anything that they like from a different country, they should use the people actually from the country instead of trying to, the fast fashion, which is they'll take like a kimono, for instance, which is supposed to cover you, and they've made it sexy. That's not what a kimono represents. So I feel like if you want to appreciate something, just appreciate it where it's at. Don't try to take it and change it into something that you know it's not. Don't try to force it.
Recently, a Washington Post article came out, and Beverly Johnson, who was the first African-American woman to be on the cover of Vogue, talked about how there's not enough diversity, and Vogue just keeps coming out and like apologizing. And one of my questions was, how do you think that we as consumers need to be holding brands accountable, and how can we better as people of the industry also hold those, brands and hire people accountable for not being diverse enough?
I feel like it starts at the top, because if your company is doing these things, then it has to stop there. And then as a consumer, you got to stop buying the stuff, because if you're buying the stuff, you're saying it's okay to do this. It's okay. It's not okay. So that's basically how I feel about that. Like it starts here and it starts down here. Because if you see something like Gucci, for instance, they did the blackface. And what were people still doing? Buying the stuff even when they saw that it was wrong and they were called out on it. So I feel like if someone is called out on something, stop supporting it and stop buying it. And you could research other brands and companies that make the same things, but they're not, racist, or they're not discriminating anybody, because that's just how it should be. You shouldn't be discriminating or appropriating anything. You should be respectful to it.
Yeah, so to Dominique, you've worked with a lot of models in your time, and you're a photographer as well. What do you think are the different ways we can combat discrimination effectively in fashion?
I think reaching into different cultures, maybe you're a brand that only focuses in on one type of thing. Maybe dive into different cultures and do your research and, embrace these different cultures and bring them into like your different looks, I think would be huge. And, just like kind of having everybody learn together and grow through that process of you representing different cultures in an awesome way.
Yeah, because you guys were talking about cultural appropriation, and I'm sure it's a very slippery slope in fashion, especially with different fashion designers possibly doing something similar, I can bring it to you, so Sophia.
Well, can you answer that for us, Mariya? Hi, Mariya, did you hear me? Can you answer that for us?
Yes. If you can repeat the question, I don't think I got it 100%.
Me? No. But I have a different question for you. In your time as a photographer, I'm sure you worked with a couple modeling agencies. Do you feel they're selective towards race, in your time working with different agencies and models?
I honestly feel like it's all a client, and the client goes based on what they sell better. If they see that they sell better clothes on this or another type of model, they will go for it just because they are always trying to maximize the income. That's, I think, where the problem comes from. From the other side, what I do like, for example, like, if I'm not mistaken, Nordstrom, what they started to do, it will not obviously work way better for specific models, but what they started to do, they started to show the clothes on a model but without showing the face, for example. And even in this way, they can already bring more people there, I think. So it does go from clients and from the top, as was mentioned, because I don't think that model agencies are too selective about is it white or black or Asian or some other races. I will not go through all of them, but because if there is a girl who's coming, she's beautiful, she has all the right features, she's it wouldn't matter what race she is.
Let me ask you a question, Mariya. From you being in the industry all this time, how do you see the equity when it comes to balance? Because I'll tell you from my experience, one of the reasons why I started PLITZS Fashion Marketing, just to be honest, was really to have to offer more diversity. That's part of our company mantra here at PLITZS, is to be as diverse as possible. Because what I found in fashion, and especially mainstream fashion, there are just not that many opportunities. Even though there are more people of color in fashion now, more body types, I just think when it comes to the racial aspects and even sexism, that's always been an issue in fashion. A lot of things were very monolithic, or it's very cyclical, where things go in cycle. So for example, one season, they'll have like a lot of Asian models. Another season, they'll have a lot of African-American models. So it was like a trend more than just being the norm, right? And then it was in small quantities, right? And then it will go back to being the same again, back to being very monolithic. So I'd like to hear from the three of you, like, what are your opinions on that? I'll start with Mariya, from what you visually see just dealing in the industry.
Yeah, I agree with you absolutely. That's, again, the trend and all these things. Like, personally, when I'm working with bigger clients and sometimes they ask me to select the models, I always give them the choice of different races, because I think that's fair to have, even they say, okay, we have this type in our mind, I still try to represent different choices, especially if they need 2 or 3 or 4 models, then in my opinion, it's the must to have different people there. So I think actually as photographers, me, Dominique, other people, we can also somehow influence this process as well.
Thank you for that, Mariya. And what about you, Dominique?
I think that is definitely true, that there is a cycle of different trends that go through with different types of ethnicities and stuff that are in trend, unfortunately. And I hope that this whole thing has opened people's eyes and different brands and agencies and whatnot to see that we shouldn't really base an ethnicity on the trend. I don't think that's really fair, or it's kind of gross, actually. I think that it'd be awesome if there wasn't that kind of weird trend, or that all the agencies sometimes, I remember looking back, there was one time when I was going to a bunch of agencies in New York and they were all looking for redheads. They literally were we're looking for redheads, blah, blah, blah. And it's okay, well, all right. But yeah, so I think that it's important that the diversity is coming into play more so than just trying to be so close-minded and have these weird trends.
Yeah, I mean, jumping off from what you're saying, I don't think I'm clear about this. What's the point of kind of this pandering on race? I don't think I really get it. I feel like I'm the newbie in all this, right? What's the point of pandering to a very specific race for a season? What's the point of that?
Alexis, do you want to jump in on this? Okay.
It's like Jeopardy. But basically, in the modeling industry, like for the longest, it's been a beauty standard. And you see them in magazines, you see them all the time. They want the girl with the really curly hair, or like Dominique said, they want the redhead, or where's the gingers, or, you know, or where's just the straight hair. We don't want, you know, it's weird. It's a weird trend. It's really weird. So I feel like when it comes to companies and stuff now, with everything that's going on, people should be more open to diversity, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what the person looks like. When you take that picture as a photographer, you're like, this is beautiful. I didn't need the redhead or just all redheads in the photo, or, you know, diversity is key in fashion, because, you know, even as the designers, you know, they're diverse as well. Everyone should have a fair opportunity with things like that. But since it's like, in a way, people have been brainwashed with the standard beauty standards, it's kind of hard for people in the industry in general to step away. So when you have good opportunities like PLITZS and also my agency and also Barbizon, you know, you get more of a fair opportunity for things.
Well, you know, I'll say this. I do understand if there's a project and you know, you might have a certain theme to your project where I only want, like, you know, black hair. I only want people between a certain size range. Totally understand that. A lot of my clients are fashion design brands, right? Designers. So, you know, I'll have designers, you know, they'll give us their specs, and on their specs, they'll say, hey, we need models between size 2 and size 4 or size 6. And we want them, excuse me, between a certain height range. Totally understand that. But I have a lot of designers, and sometimes you got to raise your eyebrow when you hear them tell you certain things. Like, we'll assign them models sometimes when they're not like specific with ethnicity. And we let them know too, hey, we have multi-ethnic models, right? But then we'll get designers and they'll have their way to try to like let you know that they want Caucasian models, right? So they'll say, some of the things you'll hear is like, well, my brand palette for this collection, you know, it doesn't show well on a darker palette. I need a lighter. I want all Caucasian models. Some of them will come straight out and tell me that. I've had like overseas designers where culturally they're more blunt. You know, they're not, you know, they're not candescent like that, you know, trying to hide behind anything. They'll come straight out and say, hey, I need white model. I had that last season where the designer, they shipped their collection to us, and you know, they told us like they want white models. When we sent them the videos of their models, they were like, can you, we prefer white models. And actually 2 international brands told us that, right? And again, they're our clients, so if they're telling us they need a certain ethnicity color-wise because of what they need to portray their brand, we can't say to them like, no, that's not fair, you can't do that, right? But those are some of the like indirect things that happen in fashion, where it goes on a lot and it's just so common that people don't even blink an eye at it. You know what I mean? So I think that's the kind of mindset that we got to change. I've heard so many crazy things like dark skin, like Mariya, you're a photographer, right? Dominique, you're a photographer. And I used to hear the stories all the time that like dark complexion don't come off well on film and in photography, right? It's more work in post-production. I've even seen that said on like a major popular show back in the day for models, where that was the explanation being given, which I thought is nuts, because, you know, I'm a tech person too. I'm like, that's crazy, right? That's what post-production is all about. If you need to clean up complexion, if someone has acne or whatever the case might be, you know, doesn't matter what color you are, everyone has those issues. So, you know, I was curious, like Mariya, have you ever come across that where they wanted a certain ethnicity, but it wasn't really valid in your opinion?
Definitely, it's happening a lot. And again, I think it's all based on, you know, the money-making things. Just because they assume that it will sell better like this. Personally, I honestly think that it's not only that. So I think the darker the skin color is, the better it comes out on the picture. That's my personal opinion. I don't want to say anything against white goes, but like darker skin, in my opinion, it looks better. There are always complementary and not complementary color for every type of skin. For example, like in my opinion, a lot of times if there is a very white girl, the beige color, the light beige color looks not complementary. Or there are also colors which wouldn't be 100% complementary for like, that's just a color theory. That's if you can go. But most of the things, it doesn't really matter what color of the skin you have. It doesn't. It's not more or less difficult to retouch certain type of skins. It's all the same effort for every one of them.
Thanks, Mariya. What about you, Dominique?
Yeah, I think that it's crazy to think that like you wouldn't want a diverse group of people representing your brand and your designs and products, because, you know, people see those models and they go, I see myself like in that person. So if you see people that look like you, you're going to be attracted to buy it. So you think like that would be a perfect marketing thing, because then it's going to draw in everyone, you know? So it's just weird to me to think that that's still a problem we're having today. It's really sad, unfortunately. I hope that this helps boost it and change things for us.
Well, thank you very much for that, Dominique. Well, we're winding down our show. We just have a couple minutes remaining for our show. So I want to, you know, before we completely wrap up, I want to do a big thank you for this inaugural kickoff of our Webcast-Podcast-Webinar series, Model Freedom Roundtable. I want to thank Dominique, Alexis, and Mariya for taking time out of their busy days. I know you ladies are busy, to sit with us for this hour and really give us your honest, open opinion. I want to thank the attendees that are online now, watching live on Facebook Live, and that are currently on our webinar. We will have this video posted. We will be posting it on Instagram, YouTube, and we'll have it on our websites also. I want to thank our show hosts, Juan and Sophia, and our show producer coordinators behind the scene, Kayla and Yuki, for doing a great job with keeping the show in line. And I would just want to let the audience know also that next week, Thursday, 7 p.m., we will have our designer style buys roundtable, where we have designer guests talking about different topics at our roundtable for an hour with me and my team. So again, I want to say a big thank you to everyone for taking the time out to be on our new web series, which will be airing once a month. Well, the model, let me explain clearly. The Model Freedom Roundtable will be once a month. We have a designer style buys roundtable that will be once a month. And we also have hair and makeup roundtable that will be once a month. And I believe we're going to launch a kids models roundtable, kids and parents roundtable. So stay tuned for more. Again, thank you, everyone. Please be safe, be healthy, and I hope to see everyone in person soon. So thank you all for being on the call tonight, and thank the attendees for attending. Have a good night, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you. It was a great time. Good night, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye,
Bye-bye.
guys.
He's up there.